We all know Steve Jobs as the visionary in the black turtleneck who gave us the iPhone, the iPod, and the Mac. But before he became the icon of Apple, he was fired from the very company he created. His story isn't just about genius and success. It's about failure, ego, and a second chance that completely changed the world of technology. Steve Jobs was born in 1955 as a teenager obsessed with electronics. He met a shy but brilliant engineer named Steve Wozniak. In 1976, the two of them started a small company in a garage, Apple Computer. They sold a van and a calculator to fund their first product. The Apple I. Apple grew fast, and the Apple II became a massive hit, helping to launch the personal computer revolution. By his mid-20s, Jobs was a millionaire. He was young, intense, and incredibly demanding. He pushed people hard and expected perfection. Some loved his passion, others hated it. But everyone knew he was driven by a powerful vision. In 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh. It had a graphical interface and a mouse, and was launched with that iconic 1984 Super Bowl commercial. Jobs believed it was the future. Friendly, intuitive, and personal. But behind the scenes, there were serious problems. The Mac was expensive, underpowered, and sales were slow. Inside Apple, a power struggle was brewing. To help run the company, Jobs had recruited an experienced executive from Pepsi named John Sculley. At first, they were a team. But soon, their visions clashed. Sculley focused on sales and stability. Jobs pushed for bold, risky ideas, often ignoring practical limits. The tension grew, and in 1985, the conflict exploded. Jobs tried to reassert control, but the board backed Sculley instead. The company's co-founder, the face of its early success, was stripped of all real power. A few months later, Steve Jobs left Apple. He would later say, "What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone." And it was devastating. Imagine building something from nothing, pouring your entire identity into it, and then being told you're no longer wanted. Jobs felt like a public failure and even considered leaving Silicon Valley for good. But what he did next changed everything. Instead of quitting, he started building again. He founded a new company called NeXT, which aimed to create high-end computers for universities and businesses. NeXT machines were beautiful and powerful, but they were also very expensive and never became a mass-market success. However, its software was decades ahead of its time and would later play a crucial role in Apple's future. Around the same time, Jobs bought a small computer graphics division from Lucasfilm. That little studio would become Pixar. At first, Pixar struggled, but it eventually shifted its focus to animation. In 1995, it released Toy Story, the first ever full-length computer-animated film. It was a monumental success, making Pixar one of the most respected studios in the world and Jobs a major player in both tech and entertainment. Meanwhile, the company he had left behind was falling apart. Apple went through multiple CEOs, a confusing product lineup, and was losing its relevance. Microsoft was dominating the market. By the mid-1990s, Apple was losing money and looked like it might not survive. Then, in 1996, Apple made a shocking move. It needed a new operating system, and after considering its options, it decided to buy NeXT, the company Steve Jobs had built after being fired. With that deal, Jobs returned to Apple, first as an advisor and then as interim CEO. Back at the company he co-founded, Jobs moved fast, slashed projects, and simplified the product line, focusing the company on just a few clear products. He revitalized the brand with the legendary Think Different campaign, celebrating the rebels and misfits who saw the world differently, a clear reflection of how Jobs saw himself. In 1998, he introduced the iMac, a colorful all-in-one computer that stood out from the sea of boring beige boxes. It was a hit and saved Apple from financial ruin. But Jobs was just getting started. In 2001, Apple released the iPod, putting 1,000 songs in your pocket and transforming the music industry. Then, in 2007, came the iPhone. Many people dismissed it at first, but Jobs knew it was a revolutionary device. The iPhone went on to change not just Apple, but the way billions of people live, work, and communicate. The iPad and the App Store followed, and Apple transformed from a struggling computer company into one of the most valuable businesses in history. Looking back, Steve Jobs said that getting fired from Apple was one of the best things that ever happened to him. It freed him to enter one of the most creative periods of his life, giving him the experience he needed when he finally returned. His story is often told as one of genius, but it's just as much about how he handled defeat. Being pushed out of Apple could have been the end. Instead, it was a turning point. He turned humiliation into fuel and a second chance into a legacy. His journey shows that even the most painful setbacks can become the foundation for your greatest work if you choose to build on them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.